Innovation. We all recognise it's at the heart of every thriving business. But knowing it and delivering it are two very different things, or at least delivering it successfully. A couple of years ago, research suggested that as much as 95% of business innovation products failed. Dr. Simona Huja, the best-selling author and the founder CEO of Blood Orange innovation strategy firm, says that there's one core flaw at the heart of many corporate innovation cultures: a lack of employee buy-in.
Everybody has the potential to share ideas. Whether they're at the leadership level or managerial level, or whether they're on the front lines, whether they're answering the phones. We worked with a Fortune 10 client recently where we were asking them to think about this very thing. They said, we want to build a culture of entrepreneurship. And one of the things we realized is that the people who are interacting with their customers day to day didn't have any pipeline to share whatever they were learning from their customers on the phones or on email or on chat. Not in a way that was direct. It was very indirect, and there's sort of like that childhood game of telephone. It passes from one layer to the next, and suddenly some of the insights start to get lost. And so we created that pipeline, which in turn shifted how the organization not only looked at their customers, but then how did they look at those frontline people? And how do you think those frontline people felt?
Yeah, very valued as a result. Although I must ask, are ideas and insights, is that the same as innovation though?
No, that's a great question. It is not the same as, ideas and insights are not the same as innovation because, and nor is invention the same as innovation. So let's dive into that. We can have an idea that's new and an idea to apply something in a new way, but until it's executed, so that's invention, that might be invention even if it's a prototype. Maybe you hack something together in your garage and it might even work and one person tested it. Okay, great, that's an invention. And then when you bring it to scale, bring it to life, then that is innovation. That is innovation. So the idea alone isn't necessarily innovation, but it is a really important part of it. And the reason it's so important, the idea is so important, is because that idea is born out of all the things that great innovators and entrepreneurs have, which are things like humility, curiosity, the ability to observe, to ask open-ended questions, to understand what needs aren't being met, and not sort of get stuck in the confines of the four walls of the virtual or real organization and say, well, let me tell you what you need, as opposed to let me observe and understand what your needs are.
So how do you encourage, I don't know, CEOs or C-suite leaders to embrace that, to enable everyone to be an innovator within their company?
So it's a really great question, because everyone says they want this, but it's a courageous leader and a clear leader who actually will embrace this and bring it into their organization. The way you do it is you help them understand the business case for it, right? So very often people will say entrepreneurship, that sounds like everyone's doing their own thing. No, entrepreneurship really means how do you get your people to act like internal entrepreneurs? But they're not, it's not that you're working in a chocolate factory and you're trying to figure out how to create, flying cars. It's how do we advance our existing business goals better, faster, with fewer resources? And so once you start to understand that leveraging and harnessing all the power and the insights of the people in your organization, the people who are already there as a part of this journey, and how it's going to accelerate your path to your existing goals, then people start to listen.
That's interesting, actually, because I was going to ask you, do you really want everyone to be an innovator and an entrepreneur? Don't you want some people just to get on with delivering the product?
Yeah.
But you're saying so long as there's a clear parameter within which you're innovating, then that's still helping the value of the company.
Yes, you're asking all the right questions. I think one of the things we think about in innovation, and I think about now, I would say 15 years in, I think back in the day, I would say innovation's for everyone. It is the path to sustainable growth, and it certainly is. We know that. That's proven. There's no question mark there. But I think what now I realize, having been on the inside of so many of these organizations, is innovation is very psychological. Innovation is something that makes people feel scared. It feels like change is really hard as humans. It makes it feel like, oh, you're the innovation people, or this is innovation, you're getting all the attention, you're getting the press, you're getting the PR. And what about me and the engine that I've been keeping rolling for the last 10, 15 years? Doesn't that have any value? And the truth is, it has a ton of value, because without that core engine, we don't have the space, the resources to play in these other areas. So, to your point, everybody doesn't have to be involved in innovation. That core engine needs to be supported so that we can continue to play in these spaces that are outside of our very core activities. At the same time, if you have somebody who's in that core and they say, look, coming back to the definition of innovation is a new way to add value. So the newness piece, I think, is pretty obvious, but it's adding value, and adding value doesn't have to be the big breakthrough, or it doesn't have to be the big technology. It certainly can be, but it can also be things like day-to-day process, right? The biggest problems that we find is that there just isn't enough change in culture, change in strategy. So I always ask, do you have an innovation strategy? And if you do, is it really connected to your core business strategy? If it's not, you're not going to make the case for change. Why should I operate differently?
It's over there somewhere.
It's over there somewhere, because there's always this chasm between the leaders are talking about innovation, but actually I'm not incentivized for that. I think the case for not innovating comes down to a fundamental problem also, which is, like, for example, in very large organizations, I hear phrases like, we don't have time to innovate. But what that tells me is that people don't understand what innovation is. Because if innovation is all about new value creation, there's no choice but to do it, if you want to stay relevant and stay on the map. So if you tell me you don't have time, it means that you think of innovation as a shiny object. It's like a big disco ball, and it's spinning around the room during a big meeting, and then we put it away in the closet because the party's over. But it's not the disco ball. It is actually something that's really fundamental to business growth.